Green divas and green dudes come in many shades of green. Here to help you discover and celebrate your personal shade of green are hosts Green Diva Meg and Maxine Margot, veteran radio chicks who share important news about climate change and the plight of human existence, but somehow manage to make most of it fun and sexy using at least 50 shades of green. Well, hey, and so glad you tuned us in today. Welcome to another episode of 50 Shades of Green Divas. I am Green Diva Meg.
And I am Green Diva Max.
And we are here to talk about the weather.
Weather? Wow, there's been a lot of that.
You know, well, it's funny because back a couple of years ago when Green Diva Lynn and I were doing the show, and often we were doing it on the phone and she was in Chicago, no matter what we said, we always started like, well, the weather here. And I'm like, why are we talking about the weather?
And we do the same thing.
And we do.
Except this show is actually about the weather.
But this time
we figured we'd focus all the way and just not stop.
It's really, really about the weather.
The weather.
There's been a lot of weather, right? I mean, there's been a lot of record-breaking weird weather going on.
I would use the word weird, not usual, and abnormal.
I mean, from the fires in California, and we were in California when that was happening.
Yeah, I was there last year.
Yeah.
But these fires, and they were horrible.
Yeah.
The fires this year make those look like pansies. I'm like, I can't even believe it.
No, they were weenie fires in comparison.
And they were horrid. So geez.
So we're going to talk about that. But also, like, this Thanksgiving was record-breaking cold.
The turkey froze the giblets off, literally.
The giblets froze off.
The frozen giblets.
So I don't know.
Giblets. Is it giblets or giblets? Tomato. I
found this quote to get us started. A change in the weather is sufficient to recreate the world and ourselves. And we'd like to think that, right? Like nothing like a sunny day to
that
make
was
everything.
Proust, by the way.
Thank you for pronouncing it properly.
Okay.
I never do. So, so I said Thanksgiving, we had this record-breaking cold. So just the day after Thanksgiving, the U.S. Global Change Research Program, a team of 13 federal agencies, the Fourth National Climate Assessment, which is a huge report, by the way, was put together with the help of 1,000 people, including 300 leading scientists. They put out the second part of this report, which all the headlines I saw that were popping into my little phone and notifications, dire predictions. Dire was a word that kept coming up regarding climate change. And this was also on the heels of our president, who tweeted after the Thanksgiving hoo-ha about it being the coldest.
Right.
He said, whatever happened to global warming?
It's so cold. Whatever happened to global warming?
And I'm like, dude, even people who know nothing about science at this point understand that global warming and climate are different than any given day's weather, right? Yes. But, some people apparently still think it's all a hoax.
I don't know how that's possible when you have fires, you have Category 5 hurricanes decimating entire towns, and look what happened in Puerto Rico. It's still not, the same.
No.
And all over the world this is going on. So, there is something called science, and this report is backing that up.
So one of the things that they do to help clear that up, which we also talk about further on in our show here, you'll hear it a couple of different ways. Climate change is not extreme weather of one day or a week. It's demonstrated by long-term trends. So in other words, you may have, record-breaking cold Thanksgiving, but that doesn't mean there isn't a trend towards global warming and climate change. So even we're now experiencing, according to this report, we are now experiencing the warmest temperatures in modern history. even if the best case scenario were to happen, the greenhouse gas emissions were to drop to nothing right now. Good luck with that, by the way. The world is on track to warm 1.1 degrees Fahrenheit, which, and I think Max will get into that more as what those implications are. But it doesn't sound like a big deal, 1.1, but it is.
And it's going to go up to 3.
Yeah.
And it's climbing. And at this point, unless we start doing something really drastic, we're going to have tremendous health issues, economic issues. It's going to be like literally hell. Hell. Just think of Hades. Hell.
Well, I think of when those fires, those people that were trying to get out.
Talk about hell. Yeah.
So, on a lighter note, one of the more fun blog posts that we've ever done on the Green Divas is, Lynn did it a few years ago, was all these quotes about the weather. Because we're just like weather-obsessed people, and they're kind of funny, and some of them are just kind of interesting. But here's one more. You are the sky. Everything else is just the weather. Good old Pema Chodron. Mm-hmm. She has such a way. But that's kind of a segue to something Max had been working on.
I don't know. I was thinking of a song called Side by Side, and basically, what if the sky should fall is one of the lines, and the chorus is like, through all kinds of weather, what if the sky should fall? But as long as we're together, it really doesn't matter at all. So yes, Meg, sometimes I feel it's you and me against the world, side by side, fighting the good fight. Something we've been doing a really long time, trying to get this message out, which after this report just verifies what we'd be saying. So is it really possible that the sky could fall?
Chicken Little says.
Chicken Little said the sky's falling, and I think Chicken Little is right.
It could be.
So if we keep polluting the air, it could happen. There is no denying that the Earth is getting hotter every year, as Meg mentioned. Many people think it's the weather, but herein lies the conundrum. The reason the Earth is getting hotter is due to climate change, not weather. Yes, folks, the climate is changing, and us humans are adding to the problem by being a gluttonous, energy-sucking species who need to feed our devices with power on a constant basis. Everything is plugged in. It just is. It's amazing to me. As a result of our energy habits and the need to always power up, we are heating the globe on a level never seen before. The reason that this is all happening is that greenhouse gases, carbon emissions, are filling the air with toxins as a result of fossil fuels and methane production. The greenhouse gas traps heat in the atmosphere, contributing to climate change. When climate change begins to impact the corporate line, as storms are causing billions of dollars in damage, I think that's when it's going to get more attention.
Well, and I think it is starting to, actually. There are some progressive and thoughtful corporations that are paying attention to this and planning accordingly.
It has to happen. I mean, it's key for them to happen. And so, at this point, Meg also mentioned at the top that there is this report that came out. And in USA Today, they reported that a massive report issued by the Trump administration
the irony.
Emphasizes the dire threat that human-caused global warming poses to the United States and its citizens. Earth's climate is now changing faster than at any point in the history of modern civilization, primarily as a result of human activities, researchers say in the report. Officially, Volume 2 of the National Climate Assessment, Volume 1, was released last year. The impacts of global climate change are already being felt in the United States and are projected to intensify in the future, the researchers say. The future's here. The future's now.
Yeah.
The last few years have smashed records for damaging weather in the United States, costing nearly $400 billion since 2015.
That's a bottom line. That's a big bottom line.
I mean, and the insurance and all the industries that are associated with this, something has to give. In a worst-case scenario, the researchers say climate change could deliver a 10% hit to the nation's GDP